A 4-ounce sunscreen bottle contains about 4 full-body applications, not a summer's worth.
It's a pretty shocking reality, right? But the math absolutely does not lie. This explainer was written and edited by Dr. Thomas Hocker, a triple-board certified Harvard and Mayo Clinic-trained dermatologist, Mohs surgeon, and dermatopathologist. You know, the way you actually apply sunscreen, how you reapply it, and how you pair it with clothing, that literally determines how much protection you are actually getting. And the hard truth? A single hurried layer of lotion right before you jump in the pool is simply not going to do the job.
So, let's just dive right into this. To get real protection, we kind of have to abandon this whole idea that sunscreen alone is some magic invisible force field that you just slather on once. Instead, you need a solid 3-part system. We're talking cover first, use enough, and run the clock. Following these 3 steps takes outdoor skin protection from, a stressful guessing game into a really reliable mathematical habit. It's like building a fortress rather than just holding up a flimsy paper umbrella.
But wait a second. If sunscreen is so incredibly effective in all these tests, why does it feel like it fails us in real life? I mean, we've all applied it and still come home completely red. Well, the answer there lies in the massive gap between the laboratory and reality. See, in the US, labeled SPF is tested using a thick, highly controlled dose of 2 milligrams per square centimeter of skin. Honestly, it's practically frosted on like a cake. But in real-world studies, people commonly apply only 0.5 to 1.0 milligrams. That's roughly 1/4 to 1/2 of the test amount. Real life is just thinner, patchier, wetter, and sweatier than a clinical lab test. You simply aren't putting it on the way the scientists did when they slapped that number on the bottle.
You see, SPF stands for Sun Protection Factor, but that label, it describes a very careful, precise laboratory application. It is definitely not an absolute guarantee of what automatically happens after a random, thin amount is rubbed onto human skin, as you're, say, frantically rushing your kids out the door. Because the lab testing completely assumes enough product is used in perfect conditions, we have to fundamentally change how we look at that bottle we buy at the store. It's a tool, not a guarantee.
Okay, wow. So, if an average adult needs about 1 fluid ounce, which is roughly a shot glass full for a full-body application when most of their skin is exposed, that means a standard 4-ounce bottle empties incredibly fast. Exactly. This brings us to what we call honest bottle math. A 4-ounce bottle gives you roughly 4 full-body applications. A 6-ounce bottle gives you 6. These are honest planning estimates just to make the quantity visible for you. A standard bottle cannot provide weeks of full-body protection for a family. In fact, it barely provides days for one individual. When you start visualizing that bottle as just 4 shot glasses of lotion, your entire summer packing strategy kind of has to change.
Okay, this is a total reset for how most of us pack for the beach or a hike. So the unresolved question here is this. If we're doing this right, if we are actually following the math, how much sunscreen does one single long outdoor outing actually consume for just one person?
All right, let's look at the timeline and see how this builds over a typical day. Just imagine an adult spending a Saturday outside at the beach or a park, with most of their body exposed. You need about 1 ounce before leaving the house. 2 hours later, if you are still exposed, you need another ounce. 2 hours after that, another ounce. Just by following the basic clock, you've burned through roughly 3 ounces of product. That is almost an entire standard bottle for one person. And that's before we even factor in the water. If you brought 1 bottle for your family of 4, you literally ran out before lunch.
Right, and swimming, heavy sweating, or towel drying triggers an immediate need to reapply. That instantly breaks that 2-hour clock we just talked about. Water resistant is a tested label for a 40 or 80-minute interval in the water. Let me be clear, it does not mean waterproof. There is no magical sunscreen layer you can apply once and trust through hours of swimming and sweating. And remember this, the moment you drag a towel across your skin to dry off, you've essentially wiped away your protection. The friction just pulls the lotion right off.
Okay, but even with all that reapplying, what about the spots we just forget to cover? We're human, we're bound to miss a few places, right? For sure. A perfectly chosen sunscreen cannot protect skin it never reaches. An area you completely miss has an SPF of 0. UV photography studies actually show the eyelid and inner eye regions are disproportionately missed, mostly because we naturally avoid putting chemicals near our eyes. But the ears, the temples, the sides and back of the neck, the scalp where hair is thinning, and the tops of the feet, these aren't afterthoughts. They belong on a deliberate top-to-bottom coverage checklist. It takes real focus to hit every single exposed inch.
Which brings us right back to the very first step of our system, cover first. For the skin it covers, clothing is usually the more reliable layer. Why? Because you don't have to spread a shirt to a laboratory thickness, and you definitely don't need to reapply it every 2 hours.
While fabric protection does change with weave, stretch, and color, a UPF-rated garment gives you the most predictable fabric protection. Once it is on and stays on, it's doing its job. You literally just slip it over your shoulders and you're done. But let's talk about the actual numbers on the bottles, because this is where a lot of the confusion happens. People constantly ask, is an SPF 30 just a bad sunscreen? Or, hey, I've seen these sensational articles online claiming that if you apply it thinly, an SPF 50 literally drops all the way down to an SPF 6. Is that actually true, or is that just fear-mongering?
No, broad-spectrum SPF 30 is not bad at all and meets the usual professional minimum. But we recommend choosing a broad-spectrum, water-resistant SPF 50 or higher to create a margin of safety, not to gain permission to be lazy. Because real application is almost always thinner than the lab application, starting with a higher SPF can preserve more absolute protection. However, that higher number is never permission to apply less product, miss patches of skin, stay out longer, or skip your reapplication. It is a buffer, not a free pass.
And regarding that online rumor, no. An SPF 50 does not literally and magically become a biological SPF 6 for every single person just because it's applied thinly. Protection falls with underapplication, yes, but the exact drop depends on the product formulation, the body site, and the individual person. In the Skin Trust Sunshield tool, using an effective protection factor of 6 is a deliberately conservative, clinician-governed modeling assumption. It just keeps our mathematical calculations safe and predictable. It is not some universal biological conversion that happens on everyone's skin.
So give me the absolute bottom line here. What are the exact deterministic steps I need to take before I even head outside for the day? The absolutely crucial point is to have a defined routine before you ever open the front door. Step 1. Put on the clothing, wide-brimmed hat, and sunglasses you are actually willing to keep on. Let the fabric do the heavy lifting. Step 2. Choose a broad-spectrum, water-resistant SPF 50 or higher and systematically apply enough to whatever skin is left exposed. Step 3. Do the math. Physically pack enough product for the number of reapplications the outing will actually require. Don't just guess. Plan for the ounces.
And once you are outside, you have to follow the rules of the clock and the towel. Use shade when practical, just to give your skin a break. Reapply at least every 2 hours on the dot. Set an alarm on your phone if you have to. Follow the strict 40 or 80-minute water resistance limit on your bottle if you are swimming or sweating, and reapply immediately after towel drying. Remember, sunburn is a delayed warning that your protection was already inadequate. Don't wait for the redness to appear to start applying.
Wow, this totally changes the patient's decision. You really can't just toss a half-empty bottle in a beach bag for a family of 4 and expect it to last the whole weekend. You have to do one honest calculation before you leave. How many ounces will the exposed skin and the planned reapplications actually require for everyone going on the trip?
Exactly. And that honest calculation relies on using clothing so less skin depends entirely on sunscreen. Dr. Hocker created Skin Trust to provide free, evidence-based dermatology education and help patients and clinicians make clearer decisions together. I really invite you to read the complete article on Skin Trust and to discuss your specific, individualized sun protection needs with your treating clinician. So, before you step out into the sun today, are you trusting a rushed layer of lotion, or are you trusting a system?